everybody, welcome back to the Dollar Vigilante. Got another incredible guest on after our last guest, Ed Bugos, who that was interesting because he said that might be the top in the gold and silver market.
When it does go parabolic, the time factor, the clock is ticking, right? It can't sustain at that rate. So either it's gonna, I've never seen a market go parabolic and then just go sideways for a while, right? Usually you get some sort of a recoil or pushback or a correction.
And then the next day, silver dropped $50. So that was a pretty good call by Ed. And now I've got another incredible guest coming on, a person I talked to on Anarchast, like in 2013, so 13 years ago. It's incredible how much time flies. It's Andrew Henderson of the Nomad Capitalist. Of course, basically anarcho-capitalist, doing all kinds of, basically living around the world. He's actually coming in from Colombia right now. He's going to be speaking at the upcoming Dollar Vigilante Summit coming up in just a couple weeks, about 3 weeks from now, on February 21st. And he'll be, I think, in Malaysia at that time. He's all over the place. Andrew, it's great to see you again.
You were, I think, one of the first guests. If you remember, like, here's how long it's been since we've known each other. There was some guy who like had this blog with like pictures of a swarthy Latin man, and like he didn't use his real name. He was like the man of mystery. Like he was kind of like a thing back then. And that's how long ago it was. And I invited you to come on my show. I'm like, oh, Jeff would never come on my show. And you did. And you were the first really big guest, and I appreciated it. And then I came on your show, I think, in 2014, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and I know you just shaved for this show. You got a little bit of blood there. You'll be wiping it away. Nothing sinister or anything. But
it's not sheaf.
Yeah, it's amazing how much time's flown. And of course, you've done very well. I think you have over 1 million subscribers on YouTube or something. Is that right?
Yeah, well, yeah, but a year ago we crossed the 1 million mark. I don't really follow it anymore. I kind of just decided to just let it be, and we put out like 2 videos a week. My thing was always you want volume. I've always believed in just hard work. Very like Midwestern. I think you from Canada, probably the same kind of culture of like winter is coming. You got to keep working hard. Just do more. So we used to do like a video every single day, and that got us to 1 million subscribers. And then they're like, maybe let it breathe a little bit. Like Mr. Beast doesn't put out a video every day, but you don't have to either.
Yeah, Mr. Beast, that's an interesting story we could get into, but I think we won't. I think he's kind of backed by the system, you could say. But anyway, but yeah, it's actually true for anyone out there. Definitely putting out lots of videos is how you grow an audience, and I've actually been doing that kind of like I didn't stop for a couple of years when I was doing some self-work and stuff, but aside from that, like even this week, I've been doing one almost every week, and it's not because I'm trying to grow my audience or anything, but I actually find all this, like we're actually in the period of time that we were talking about like 10 years ago. We were warning about all these things. You better get a second residency. You better get a second passport. You might want to move outside of the West. And now it's all happening. It must be interesting for you to see all the stuff that's happened over the last decade since we last really talked.
It's absolutely wild, and I've been saying, including at my event where you're going to be at Nomad Capitalist Live, one of the big things I've been saying is if people aren't laughing at you, you're not doing something right. You and I were saying, I've been saying it for 13 years, if you're a Westerner, you need a second passport, and not just Americans because of the tax, but everybody kind of laughed. And I think COVID was kind of the first thing that really exploded people's idea on that, and along with kind of the Bitcoin and crypto boom at that same time that brought a lot of aligned people in saying, yeah, like if I don't believe in the monetary system, why would I believe in the citizenship system as like a sense of belonging rather than a commodity? So yeah, I mean, what's funny is when you're in doing the work, you're not obsessed with like proving everybody wrong. Like you're just, hey, I've been saying this for a long time, I believe it. And you're kind of focused on the next thing. And for me, the next thing is you don't just want the one passport, you want the whole stack of passports because every one gives different optionality. And I think that the new thing is, not trying to get the best second passport that you can, but rather, hey, there's like 4 citizenship programs now in Africa. Like you should have at least one of them because Africa as a continent is coming together, and there's going to be investment, and there's going to be, all kinds of opportunities, including like they're kind of anti-West on a lot of this stuff. So like that's your alternative, your non-correlative passport. It's, it constantly evolves. It's been crazy to watch people adapt. And yet I kind of think that, you and I have been leading this, and we have to keep leading it and telling people, yeah, what worked 13 years ago before all these black swan events, that's not enough anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say when you say it's not enough anymore? So what more should people be thinking about or doing, in your opinion?
Well, I've been looking at regional blocks. So if you can get, let's say, Sao Tome and Principe as a passport, it's now the cheapest. It's $90,000 citizenship by investment, which is $10,000 less than, when we started. It was Dominica for $100,000. Dominica is now better. They've now been pushed on by the US and the EU. So they doubled the price, like hoping that appeasement would work, like satisfy the imperial powers that will never be appeased. So the African passports are now a little bit cheaper than what the Caribbean passports used to be and no longer are. But that kind of feeds into the African Union. Plus, each one is kind of part of a regional bloc. So, like Sao Tome and Principe is, kind of Central West Africa and the Portuguese-speaking community. I got a Cambodian passport a few months ago, and that's ASEAN. It's 11 countries, super strong. Southeast Asia. I'm here in Colombia. Argentina is going to come out with a citizenship program. You can live in a lot of these countries and become naturalized in the Mercosur region, the Caribbean citizenships, or the OECS, the Caribbean states, but also now they're increasing CARICOM, the Caribbean community. I guess the EU, I think you and I have our own opinion on that. Some of our clientele, they still like the European Union, but I'm looking at blocks. If you're Canadian, if I was born American, it's been 8 years since I've been a US citizen, but we had access to one country. You have to get permission to go anywhere else. At least if you're in the European Union, you may not like it, but you can say, hey, listen, Malta is doing something interesting, or Cyprus is doing something, or, Sweden is the best place to go during COVID. You have that freedom of movement, generally speaking. And I think you're seeing these other regional blocs around the world in the global south trying to move towards that. It's a stated goal of the African Union to increase mobility among, let's say, African citizens. If you can be South Tomean and then be able to go and live in Rwanda, which is sparkling clean, or whatever the next big place is that's anti-West and anti-Western narrative and pro-freedom, that to me is a good thing. You want to be able to live in as many places as possible, and you want to be able to travel on as many identities as possible, which especially in the days of, the Trump trade wars and everything, I wouldn't want to be an American doing business globally.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen so much of that even over the last decade with, we have a lot of American subscribers at the Dollar Vigilante, and we're like, yeah, go invest in this, go invest in that. And they're like, we can't, we're not allowed. Like the American people might be, and this, you'd be a good person to get the opinion on this, might be the most restricted, or you could say somewhat enslaved people on earth, particularly financially. What's your take on that?
Well, here's the interesting trend I'm seeing. A couple of years ago, I talked to a banker in Singapore, and they said, listen, we'd rather have a wealthy Vietnamese or Indonesian client, certainly than an American. I mean, those people, we can barely onboard them. They can only hold cash. We can't sell them anything else, lots of restrictions. But we're even kind of like Brexit, UK, EU. Like if you live in the EU, like they really don't like you in Singapore. And so we've had clients who are, the Vietnamese guy with $50 million and the Indonesian guy who sold a company for $80 million. And that is increasing a lot, which is part of what's driving prices up for residence and citizenship programs, because those are the people who realize you can't trust the government. They've known that their entire lives. But it's interesting to see that, yeah, people really don't want Westerners. I think Americans in particular have this mindset, like everybody wants American money and Americans. And it's like, if you're a bank, $50 million is $50 million. How much baggage does it come with? The Indonesian brings very little baggage. They understand why he's there. There's not a lot of questions they have to ask. And so I think we're going to see that in more areas of the world. I think, listen, we've been talking about how Canada and Australia, and to a lesser extent the UK, they're going to impose rules on their citizens. I mean, I think Boris Johnson in the UK literally said, if you've been convicted of any crime, like even, peeing in a fountain somewhere, like outside a pub, like we're going to not let you get a passport. Like that's our goal. Like that's kind of sick for like your citizens are basically your property. And so, Yeah, I think all these countries are heading in the wrong direction. Trump maybe fixed one or two regulations that helped expats, but he also made life a lot worse for expats. And our old friend Doug Casey and I were talking about that. I mean, Trump made life worse for expats. Whether you like him or not, that's a fact.
How so?
Well, the tax system for expats is more convoluted. There's more compliance, and when I gave up U.S. citizenship 8 years ago, a little over 8 years ago, I said, I wasn't in favor of Obama. Obama brought in all the FATCA and all the reporting and all the stuff that made life so difficult financially for Americans. I'm sure I agree with Obama on some things, like, hey, maybe Cuba shouldn't be our worst enemy for like 65 years in a row. But Trump came in. I'm not a nationalist. I'm a believer in meritocracy. I don't think that like the U.S. should go and bomb other countries so that some guy in Ohio who barely graduated high school can be guaranteed a $75,000 a year job, while somebody in Moldova is boiling stones for soup despite having a higher IQ. And one of the proudest things that I've seen, and I've hired people all over the world, is I like going to Tbilisi, Georgia, and I could just tell how many more cars there are than there were 10 years ago. And they're nicer cars because all of my employees in their 20s, they all bought a car now. Nobody like 24 years old 10 years ago in Georgia had a car, let alone like a nice car. And so, things are getting better for those people. I'm happy the world is becoming more meritocratic. But, I saw the writing on the wall with Trump where it's like anything that benefits anything outside of the U.S., it's one thing to make policies that help your country. It's another thing to go and wreak havoc around the world to suppress meritocracy. And I just said, I don't know what's next in this kind of America first world. I said, I also am sure that some left-wing guys are going to be elected eventually and they're going to do some bad stuff. Why do I want to be a citizen of a country that I've made a conscious effort not to visit at all? You and I used to talk about every time you come to the U.S., like, why am I even here? You'd say. And it's like, why do I need this citizenship that only bogs me down in exchange for basically nothing that I want? Everybody tells me that ever since I've been there, the U.S. has only gotten worse. And it's just unlivable at this point. And so, my thought on what Trump has done is, he got rid of like the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, for example. He's defanged that, where if you go and live in some, African or Asian country where, grease payments are the norm, you're not going to get thrown in jail for that. Okay, like that's good. But to me, that's like, if that's the norm in that country, why should your country police you no matter where? The U.S. should police Americans in the United States. And if you don't want to live there, why should your passport, strangle you? But Trump hasn't undone any of the other regulations or taxes, and he's made them worse. And so I think we're politically homeless. The idea that this guy's going to save your country and unless you like pounding your chest and saying like, yeah, we can topple like other countries' leaders. Like you toppled nobody, by the way. You weren't the guy going in and grabbing Maduro. Like you were sitting on your fat keister in Iowa somewhere having a hot dog or, sleeping when it happened. Like you should feel proud about nothing. And that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So interesting that we're basically politically homeless, sort of anarcho-capitalist types, but you are such a proponent of having numerous passports, which is kind of funny. That's the government, the state sort of a thing. But that's the kind of world that we live in today, that it's actually good to have more options, since there is no basically stateless place out there. There's places that are closer to stateless, but there really isn't. So it's just so interesting that in order to live well with our sort of philosophy, we actually have to have more of the pieces of paper from more governments. But that's something I've done as well. I've got a Liberland diplomatic passport, which isn't too useful in very many countries yet. But do you know much about Liberland, by the way? Because they've been doing a lot.
We have a great relationship with Liberland, and there's some great people that I've become great friends with, and I have the passport. And
oh, great.
I like what they're doing. I'm a pragmatist because I've always got to travel around the world. I'll tell you what, though. You said, and I've quoted this many times, if we only had 8 billion countries in the world, we'd have the most freedom we've ever had. And so, where I graduated school, it was a suburb of about 20,000 people. Some of these Caribbean countries, or Sao Tome and Principe, or Montenegro, where I used to spend time, like they are not that much bigger than Avon Lake, Ohio. I mean, they're maybe the size of Cleveland, Ohio, the city that's been hollowed out over my lifetime. And so, when you look at like your national government that issues you a passport is more like, suburban administration. You're a lot closer to that, everybody is their own country than you are in a country of 320 million. And I saw that, by the way. I was with somebody who's from a small country that most people haven't heard of, and we were traveling, and we came in, and they got stopped for like 8 hours because like, oh, we don't have a reflection of like whether your passport can come in visa free. I've never heard of your country. We've had like 5 people from your country ever come here. I've never had that issue in my life. I think that was just kind of got unlucky. And we got the number for like the ambassador on a Saturday, and the ambassador called and raised hell. And meanwhile, there's somebody back there from Canada, from your home, and they're like, "Yeah, I called my embassy. They told me to pound sand." And so I think that like when the goal of the country is we actually have to serve the people. When I'm St. Lucian and I watch the St. Lucia Prime Minister, like we took the citizenship by investment money, we built like one road this year, or we built like 50 low-income houses, or we built a school. It's like, this is not like, we're going and bombing and taking over a country. This is like, yeah, we're a small little island, and, we're sovereign, and we get along with everybody. And yeah, like we're building schools for people. Like we actually care about improving our people because we have to, or like nobody would tolerate it. The former president of Georgia told me at Nomad Capitalist Live, he's like, even a country of 4 million people, which they totally like redid the place. He said, when you go through and just slash and burn and cut government workers, it's tough because they all live in Tbilisi where you are, and you run into them at like every coffee shop. Like there's an accountability. Like someone's going to yell at you every day. And so, the closer we are to like the government being yelled at, and people actually having to build roads and schools, whether we think there's like the best use of government or not, like it's a lot better to me than like being American and having, being lectured and chased no matter what you do.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people, especially since the COVIDs and everything going on, and now we're, looking like kind of World War III-ish at the moment, definitely with the peace president now, who's ramping up the military to $1.5 trillion, which is just an unbelievable number. I'm sure a lot of people are still, thinking about like maybe they should move somewhere or get out of like the West as a good example. What would be your advice to them on that? I know that you've been quite involved in Georgia. I have to say, I've heard a lot of amazing things about Georgia. Everyone I know who's gone there comes back and goes, you got to go there. And I haven't gone yet, unfortunately. Maybe I will if I'm able, we're in the apocalypse, this year or something like that. I know that you also I think you kind of have some opinions on Russia and even the Arab sort of areas. Of course, for me personally, I've been in Mexico for the last 20 years, and it's still actually really great. For me personally, it meets basically all my needs. Latin America has a lot of opportunities, so that's an area I really like. And another area that I also used to like when I was traveling, I used to really like Southeast Asia a lot, Thailand, Cambodia. I was in Cambodia in like 2005, and I was like, and you wouldn't believe the prices of things. You could get like riverfront properties for like, I don't know, $10,000 and stuff like that. And I said back then, man, if I had a bunch of capital right now, I'd be investing it all here. And I think it's grown a lot since then. So what's your thoughts on the world and where people should be considering?
Well, number one, you mentioned, people are thinking they should leave the West. Again, I mean, I have a business, and we have certain people who are very successful business people, and they like, listen, I want to live in the European Union. To go from the US for all the issues, if you keep your money somewhere else, if you have the proper asset protection structures, if you have like everything diversified, the idea of living in Europe, I mean, I could make an argument that living in Ireland is a non-dom and paying only salary tax and being able to make as much money as you want and not, remit that to Ireland and not pay tax and be able to get a passport in 5 years without learning a new language. Like, I know that the audience probably has some views on Ireland. I would still view it as an upgrade from the United States. Number one, I just think getting out of your home culture is so important. If you're moving from like California to Nevada, you'd lower your taxes a hell of a lot more moving to Ireland, and people would probably be nicer to you. And you get a second passport, you could live in 30 different countries, and then you could shed this American identity once that $1.5 trillion of spending comes in and the increasingly prominent global South is all gunning for the US. and they don't want to work with Americans. Like, I'd rather be Irish than American. So if you want to go that Western route, like that's kind of an example of what you can do. For me, I'm much more at home in the global South. And so what I've created is kind of the global citizen sandwich. I'm going to, keep my money in the most stable places. So that could be a Singapore or a Switzerland or even like a Uruguay if you're, in Latin America. I'm going to live in kind of the mid-level place. So like in Asia, people say, do you live in Singapore? No, because for $600,000, I can get a home that in Singapore would probably cost $6 million. And then they throw like $4 million in tax almost on top of that you never see again, like for 80% the lifestyle and 30% the rules. And nicer people who are more chill. And it's just, for me, you want to live in the middle, where it's like it's close enough. And then I'm going to invest in the Cambodias, and I'm investing now in some stuff like in Bangladesh is interesting, slowly but surely getting into that. Is a Cambodian citizen
that's
now.
interesting. I haven't heard anything about Bangladesh. What interests you about there? I guess it's super, super cheap, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more in like equities, but
Bangladesh equities. Wow, this is interesting. I've never heard of anyone tell me they're in Bangladesh stocks. Tell me a bit more.
well, I mean, more so through funds, but yeah, like Iraq, Bangladesh, Uzbekistan is a big one. Jim Rogers and I were talking about that. I mean, like TBC Bank in Georgia is big in Uzbekistan. They're opening up a lot. So those are probably the top three countries, and I've done very well in a couple of Georgian equities, which are traded in London generally, so they're not on the Georgian stock market. And by the way, like the Georgian and Armenian currencies have been these great, I know a lot of people here want to be in Bitcoin, but if you want some cash, I mean, those have been stable US dollar beating high yielding currencies. But anyway, I'm going to invest in the places where I might not want to live. And I think what's happened over time is, I first went to Cambodia, I think in 2012 or 13. I've been researching it since about '05. And it's become more livable. Would I still rather live in Kuala Lumpur? Yes. And I think KL is probably cheaper than Cambodia now because Cambodia is on the dollar. But like Cambodia has become relatively livable. And so I'm going to buy more property. I'm going to buy some land, probably in the pepper plantation area. I mean, so there's just so many opportunities, even as simple as, and this is not an investment advice, I think it's probably the trade is played out. I saw my aforementioned employees all going to Bank of Georgia. They rolled out this kind of private banking program with American Express, and like everything was becoming very more advanced. And I said, I'm going to buy that stock because I just see, Peter Lynch, buy what you know. And the stock tripled like in the last year and a half. It outpaced all the Western banks. And I just said, that's the kind of stuff you see when you live in these places. Buying like the second largest bank in a developing country that's growing and going in the right direction is not really that a controversial bet. But if you never left London or New York, you might think, oh, that's controversial. So I think that the number one thing is get out there and see it. The number two thing is build your global citizen sandwich. And so for me, Bogota and Kuala Lumpur, two of the best value cities in the world, with a relatively light touch. You can go around, you can enjoy yourself. There's enough consumer conveniences that you feel comfortable. I do like Eastern Europe, although I spend a little bit less time, like in Tbilisi and Belgrade. But I mean, very politically incorrect, which I love. I think we should look at like in Istanbul. If you buy a house in Istanbul, you can still get citizenship, which is a very global South BRICS aligned citizenship. All you've got to do is buy a house and hold it for 3 years. And so people should be looking at stuff like that. And I think what they should be looking at is, do I buy the house to get the citizenship, but then maybe that's the place that I go and bug out in when something bad happens, or maybe it's not. But like I'm slowly kind of collecting different optionality around the world. For me, Western Europe is of very little interest these days. Africa is kind of the next frontier, and that's the one I plan on figuring out, hey, what's the best place to live there?
Africa. Whereabouts in Africa are you thinking? Like just thinking about.
I'm doing a swing through East Africa the next couple months. And I mean, Rwanda is, they call it the Singapore of Africa. Ethiopia is increasingly geopolitically important in kind of the Horn of Africa. And you've seen all the stuff going on at the military bases and where's Russia and where's China. So I'm going to go to those ones. I think West Africa is kind of more wide open frontier, cheaper PE ratios on stocks, but more risky. So I think East Africa is probably a place that people could find, and in Southern Africa, do you want to live in South Africa for their taxes? I guess it's a nice place to visit, but it's probably not a nice place to like live and get a citizenship. So It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Could you be a Sao Tome citizen in Africa and in the next 10 years just be able to turn up and live in Rwanda? It'll be interesting to see. But again,
Rwanda.
if they're not laughing at you, you're probably not. I mean, if you said, "Hey, in 1970, I'm going to move to Singapore," Singapore, you're crazy. And everybody, I mean, even when we first started talking those 13 years ago, hey, where's the next Singapore? And now it's like, if you want to move there, you need to have a gazillion dollars because they don't need you anymore. It's like, get in now when they're begging. You talked about the houses. Georgia was that 15 years ago. I was showing people property in Georgia for $700 a square meter less than a decade ago. And again, some of them were laughing. Now those properties are like $4,000 a meter and the cities go great. Venezuela. I was just over near the Venezuelan border here in Colombia, seeing some beautiful areas. And it's like, yeah, Venezuela also has beautiful areas. We have an employee who lives there, and she's sending me listings of like a house for $12,000 with like a hectare of land, and there's palm trees and there's bananas, and people are going to laugh. But everyone says, where can I go to buy when there's blood in the streets? We've had Doug Casey at Nomad Capitalist Live, and they're like, yeah, tell us about Tanzania. And then it's okay. Here's the place where houses are $12,000. Do you want to do it? Maybe sometimes you'll lose. I've been fortunate enough to rarely lose. I bought some of these properties. Whenever it's under $1,000 a meter, I've always done well. Here's another one, by the way. It's harder to get your money out. Egypt. You can buy incredibly cheap property. It's one of the 4 cheapest capital cities in the world. I know they're moving the capital, but okay, big city, Cairo. I mean, imagine you could buy property for under $1,000 a meter in Cairo, get a free citizenship, sell that property 5 years from now. There are some capital control issues, which I don't like, but there's some ways around that depending on where you buy. I can't think where I've ever gone wrong buying stuff that cheap and getting a free citizenship that's bricks aligned in the process. I would do Turkey first, but if you're looking for multiple, you could do Egypt too.
Yeah, I just spent a month in Egypt in November and December, and I've only been to Cairo before, and we went all the way down to Aswan, and man, that area is beautiful. I had no idea that even existed in that area. It was like so unbelievably beautiful. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, I think Egypt is interesting. Of course, there's so many variables too, though, right? With the Greater Israel Project, they want that Eastern Egypt, and then there's Venezuela. Actually, now that you're in Colombia. What are you hearing about what's going on in Venezuela? Because I haven't heard too much about what's going on the ground since the big kidnapping last month.
Yeah, well, yeah, the big kidnapping, which again, I mean, crazy. I was thinking of you because I posted on LinkedIn, which is kind of my open mic night now, and some Americans found this post where it's like, yeah, that guy was kidnapped, and I had a Russian friend or a Belarusian friend, and they're like, all my friends are saying like, when is Zara going to close? Like, when are the flights going to stop coming? It's like nobody's saying that like Russia's a great, the Putin's a great guy, but like, hey, you've invaded like what, 3 countries? The U.S. in my lifetime has invaded like 40. I'm not saying anyone should get off scot-free. I'm saying the country that has 13 times more nasty stuff should get 13 times the punishment. But somehow like all the flights are still coming. And so I don't hear that much about it. I certainly run in some of the business circles here in Colombia where, unfortunately, and this is where Latin America is more tough for me, they're like, we need to get back to, and I think they will. I think Colombia is going to turn right again. But it's like, we need a pro-US, pro-right-wing government, pro-business government. And to them, they go hand in hand, which I don't care for. I mean, you look at Asia, 75% of Malaysians, if they had to pick the US over China, would choose China. They're already choosing with their wallets. They're not going to American companies anymore. Ice cream, coffee, furniture, whatever. They prefer China. They find it more innovative at a cheaper price. So do like Brazilians, by the way. So, I think that the challenge here, I don't know what people are saying about Maduro. I have, again, a couple of Venezuelans I talked to. They seem happy about it. I think it's short-sighted, though. I mean, might doesn't make right. I think it's a terrible way to run the world. And I think it's the case for wanting to be the citizen of very neutral countries that no one's ever heard of. But I think that what you'll probably see in Venezuela is you're going to see, it used to be the U.S. would take the leader out and they put in some puppet who at least was like, oh, this guy's pro-freedom. It's like they're not even pretending anymore. So in that regard, I kind of like Trump because he doesn't even pretend that like we're here to save the world. And long term and even short term, that's going to boomerang back on U.S. citizens. So unless you just want to never leave the United States and never sell to anybody else, I think your passport is going to be increasingly toxic. And we're already seeing even Canadians saying, I don't want to buy from American suppliers. So I think Latin America, there's binary thinking in Latin America where it's like we're either left wing or like we have to be with the US, which I don't like.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because there is other ways to go other than that.
The world is doing that, by the way. The rest of the world is opening up. And by the way, I mean, you mentioned Aswan. Alguna is where I was looking at. I decided not to be an Egyptian citizen eventually anyway, because they're putting in kind of too many visits and requirements. I have enough passports. But, Alguna was built by the same people that built like one of the yacht clubs in Montenegro. I mean, it's managed like to a truly international standard. Now, it's not under $1,000 a meter, but you could actually go and live there and spend your winters there, and it could be a great place to go. So, for me, Eastern Europe, Africa, Asia, that's the big. I love Bogota, fantastic place to live, but I think geopolitically, the global South outside of Latin America is probably where I would favor.
For lifestyle alone, just ignoring like taxes and stuff like that, if those didn't exist, to which wouldn't that be nice? Like, would you ever live in like what's called the West today right now? Like for me personally, if you said, Jeff, you were gonna force you to live in the U.S. or Canada or any of those places, I'd be like so unhappy. I'd try to do anything I could to get out of it. Are you the same one as that?
I think people fundamentally misunderstand my position. I have a business that helps people reduce their taxes. I believe in that. I've done it myself. I don't know that that's why I left the U.S. I mean, long before I renounced citizenship, I traveled extensively, and then I moved out, and then I renounced citizenship. And the taxes were kind of like, well, how does that work? I don't want to live here. I don't like, the social opportunities. I don't feel comfortable here. Like all that stuff. Like you just feel it in your body. Even just like you just drive around, the police are driving around. Like I don't worry about the police in any other country. And I've never had a problem in the U.S., but you're always wondering, am I going to get pulled over and harassed? It just feels kind of like a police state. So, people think, oh, because your business sells taxes and passports, if we fix those things in the U.S., you'd want to move back. No, two things can be true at once. Yes, the U.S. taxes people way too much. Yes, their passport, we have the Nomad Passport Index. It's only number 43. It's hardly number 1. But even if it was the best passport and the tax rate was 0, why would you want to live in a country that is very isolated, where it's kind of all about itself, and where there's this kind of whole like exceptionalism and like police stuff? I wouldn't want to live there. I just wouldn't. You couldn't pay me enough. Oh, once Trump gets rid of the income tax, you're going to be sorry you left. No, I'm not. I'm not.
And he's not doing that.
Right. He was gonna get rid of all income tax, and he was gonna get rid of the citizenship-based tax, and like, oh, okay, like he's a politician.
Doge checks, your tariff checks.
Listen, you're not a libertarian, and really, you're not a nomad capitalist. I serve people in my business of all stripes, but like, if you're truly on board with how I think, I don't care who gets elected. The problem's not getting solved. Every politician brings their own problems, and by the way, the problem in the West is momentum. It's a very hard turn to turn that entire ship around. You can be happy that there's no more transgendered kids in sports or whatever. I don't follow that, whatever they're doing. And okay, like if that works for you, that's cool. By the way, there are already countries all around the world, like as in most of them, that like didn't have transgendered kids in sports. Like if your country being great relies on Trump being elected, you're kind of screwed on a long-term basis. And I don't even think him being elected solves anything. But to your point, I'll at least give credit where credit's due. I sold my home in Montenegro because I wanted to build a bigger house, and it is too much work. And I like the aesthetics. They don't have my aesthetic. It was going to take a lot of work to build a villa. I said, I discovered something, Jeff, about 2 years ago called renting. And so I said, I can rent. It's a great, Lake Collectionist. Lake Collectionist has these great curated villas, and I like the aesthetics in Greece, and I started going to Greece, and I've had a fantastic time staying in these Greek villas, and the people are super duper nice, and like you go to these villages, tavernas, it's great. At least Greece, they rolled out a flat tax or a lump sum tax. Not a flat, but a lump sum tax. You can move there if you haven't lived in Greece before, and you can get on a long-term lump sum tax. You buy a property or make some investments, and you pay one lump sum amount of tax and do whatever you want. Run your company. You don't have to run your company in Greece. You run it in Hong Kong or the BVI or wherever you want, and you pay one sum. Now, I pay very close to zero. I volunteered for a couple of years to pay a bit more than zero. But if I wanted to live in the West, I'd probably choose a place with like Greece or Cyprus where, they don't hate like, oh, you're from Russia. You must be an evil friend of Vladimir Putin's because every single person from Russia must be a terrorist. Like they don't believe that because they're kind of more proximate to those places. So I would, if I had to live in the West, I would do something like that.
I like Greece a lot too, by the way. It reminds me a lot like Mexico. It's obviously not exactly the same, but it reminds me a lot of Mexico. I think you are kind of like, you were talking to me earlier about Russia and Arab sort of culture and stuff like that. What's your thoughts on that, especially as, they try to make Russia seem like it's this evil terrorist sort of a place. And like if you've said to me, like, you have to live in one of two places, we're going to put a gun to your head, the US or Russia, I'd be like, Russia, no problem. It's a bit cold, that's the only problem, but I actually like it quite a bit. But what are your thoughts?
Well, what we were talking about the culture was, I like to borrow from every culture and people from all over the world. You realize, meeting people is the ultimate way to understand the world. And it's like, yeah, there's people in Russia that are brainwashed the way there's people in the United States that are brainwashed. There's also, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, some of the most intelligent people I've met. Many of them speak 5 or 6 languages. They read literature. They're quoting, they know a lot. And I'll tell you, people in Eastern Europe in general are very educated about geopolitics and history and like, let's not repeat that history. That's why there's such, I think in many cases, more free places to live. I'm not saying Russia is the most free place to live, but I'm saying in Eastern Europe in general, they're like, yeah, we remember what happens when like you guys do what you're doing now. So like, we don't want to do that again. Leave us alone. We don't trust you. I think it's good. Like a fundamental distrust of your government is a good thing. And so, no, but what I've picked up from those people is like, Americans, they overshare everything. Like the CEO is like, here's my wife and 2 kids. And like, look at us, and what I learned from particularly Eastern European culture is like, just keep stuff to yourself. And I've worked with some very prominent Eastern Europeans, and it's like, you don't know if they're married. You don't know if they have kids. Like, you don't know anything. And, why? Why do we care how many kids Elon Musk has? Like, why is that supposed to be part of the story? Because by the way, Elon Musk is like the American oligarch, right? And Peter Thiel, they're like, Russia has these oligarchs, like they're terrible. And if they buy a football club in the US or the UK, we should sell their football club and take their money and do whatever the hell we want with it. That's great until someone takes Elon Musk's money or Peter Thiel's money, who's like creating this whole surveillance state to spy on everybody and put everybody in a warehouse somewhere. I thought the guy was like a libertarian, but apparently not.
He's libertarian when it suits him. I heard them saying that they're going to make Greenland a libertarian paradise, but what they mean by that is there's not going to be any regulations on their massive AI data centers they're going to put there. That's,
It's not going to help you. It's not going to help me.
No.
It's going to help Peter Thiel. And that's fine. I wish him well, but I have to pick up different things from different cultures. And I really think, you and I have a profile. I had a guy drive right by my building the other day. I'm walking out the building. Guy drives by in a white BMW. Hey, Nomad! It's like, yeah, you know what? Like, it probably, like, yeah, I don't want people to like post my home address or like know like who I'm. Like, yeah, I don't want to put people at risk. And so I kind of learned that maybe these Eastern cultures that are more privacy focused is a good thing. Listen, I'm not. It's so hard, and you feel like you have to thread a needle. That like if you say anything good about Russia, like you're a Russia sympathizer. But what I'm against is Western narratives. I'm against the brainwashing. I'm against that everybody who lives in these countries is terrible. I was really supportive of Ukraine early on until Zelensky was like, every Russian should be stripped of their dual citizenship and be forced to come home and like join the military. It's like, wait a second, you want people who are against the war to be forced to come back from the places where they've lived and been naturalized because all Russians are evil and should have their French or whatever else citizenship taken, be sent back to Moscow and be sent to the front lines to fight against your country? Like, that sounds kind of screwed up and actually kind of stupid. And so, I just think it's very unfortunate that a lot of people in those countries don't have the opportunities. It's pretty crazy. I knew someone from Ukraine who's like, yeah, I think our country's run by idiots. I support Putin. Meanwhile, they can go anywhere they want in the world. The red carpet is rolled out. Please have a bank account. Come to Ireland. Come to London. What kind of a plan do you want? How can we help you? And I've seen, I was in Dublin once at the airport, and the guy's like, "Yeah, get over there." And then he sees "Oh, you're from Ukraine. Please, what can we do for you? Please step right up." But meanwhile, the person from Russia who like, I hate Putin, but like, what am I supposed to do? Is like shut out of the global financial system. And I'm again, I mean, we're entering a multipolar world. I think it's fantastic. I always say that U.S. sanctions on the world have increased fourfold since the turn of the century. Is that the U.S. is losing its power and can't cope with it? Or have suddenly there been 4 times more bad guys in the world? Like, I think you know which one the answer is. And so, it's not like, and by the way, Edward Snowden, like, thank goodness he has a place to go, because like, why, that's like, we support him. I just think like, why can't we have some nuance about a part of the world that like, it's not black and white, like everyone's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how's your life been like, in the last 10 years? I know you've gone through some like changes. You've kind of like, changed. You're not doing as many videos and stuff. Have you been kind of like changing your lifestyle a little bit?
Well, I'm a person who constantly evolves. I try and learn something new every day. I read like 15 newspapers from all around the world and get different perspectives. What's been a big thing for me. AI has been really helpful to talk about, because you get this unbiased thing where like, when you're at our level, so many people have a bias of like trying to keep you small. And you're like, hey, I got this email from this guy. Like, what do you think about it? And ChatGPT's like, oh, he's doing like this. It's like, it tells you the real scoop of like, oh, that guy's trying to take advantage of you. And I don't know. I think we talked about this many years ago. I, for most of my life, suffered from extraordinarily low self-esteem. I hated myself. And I've really worked on cleaning that up. And I've worked on kind of elevating myself to where I want to be and saying like, is this a hell yes or no? The Derek Sivers model of, I'm finally kind of at the end of cleaning up a lot of stuff that doesn't serve me. I mean, down to like little things like, the aesthetics or the decor of a house, and people would be like, why do you need it to be that way? It's like, I just want it to be that way. And I would let people kind of push me around. But I've really worked through a lot of that, and now it's just like, yeah, where do I want to be? And so to choose the global South and to choose the life that I have now from a place of like, I'm totally comfortable with that. I had to realize like, yeah, I'm sure that there's some banker who won't want to onboard my business somewhere because like, you have too many passports. It's like, I'm not going to live for a banker. I'm not going to live for like what some guy, I applied for a US visa. My then fiance is like, go visit your grandmother. And she didn't understand, like, my grandmother was at peace with like, we're not going to see each other again. We talk on the phone. My grandmother died a couple of months ago, and we hadn't seen each other. But I went to the U.S. Embassy, and they're just obnoxious. And what's crazy is I saw the guy who they put me into limbo for 3 months, and then finally they sent like a letter, you're rejected. And it's like I should have never even applied for that. I didn't want to go. I just kind of let someone tell me like, you should go. But then I saw that guy at the opera like 3 months later, and he was like 5'3" and bald, and like he gave me the angriest look. And it's like, dude, I don't have any anger towards you. Like, I left your country. You don't understand why. That's fine. I kind of feel sorry for you that you feel so angry that like one person chose to leave your country and talk about it. But people take it so personally, because their entire lives are based around, I'm American. And so when you say like, I don't want to be American, like they're destroyed. And it's like, listen, if you want to be American, like, God bless you. I think maybe you should know the alternatives. I think your country's overrated. That doesn't mean it's like the worst country on earth, but like, you are relying on facts, which they're not facts. It's inaccurate. You're relying on propaganda and marketing and, all kinds of biases. Strip those away. And if you still want to live there, then I wish you the best. But they don't want to live there because they have to look at me at the opera and be angry. And so I've been kind of dealing with that and coming to grips with all that and realizing, like, you know what? I'm doing something that's unique. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning. Very, very, very few people share our political views. Very few people start a business because most people are low agency. They don't want to make decisions. They don't want to be uncomfortable. And so you and I live in a world of low agency people, politically, economically, and in other ways. And it's been really an adaptation of like, how do you navigate life? I'm 41 now, and maybe I finally kind of sort of figured it out. How do you navigate life when you are less than 1% of the population? Like every single thing you do, you're a vast minority. And it's something that people should be aware of before they go down this journey. People are not going to understand you. You have to understand and love yourself.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you say that, though, because I don't feel like that at all. Like, I'd never thought like, oh, I'm just like I'm a different than everyone else. Like, I know I kind of am, but that doesn't bother me at all. like at all. Like I just kind of look at how most people are, and I'm like, well, it's too bad for them. They don't know, like what I know. But it's interesting that you actually that actually kind of bothered you for a period of time. But you're kind of, it's interesting.
I was raised like if there's a problem, it's always your fault. Like if someone disagrees with you or someone, it's like it's always your fault. So
well, that is actually true. From a high level thing, you actually create every problem in your own life. But what you're talking about there, that sounds more like programming that's supposed to make you feel bad without actually looking at the logical reasons things are happening, right?
Right. Someone doesn't like something that you do. And so therefore,
Right.
I don't understand why you want to have all these different passports. They actually asked me at the US Embassy. It's like, oh, did I do something wrong? And by the way, that's why living in the US is so unpleasant, because the entire country kind of runs on this thing of like, if you do anything different, if you have any different views, you should feel ashamed of yourself. And I just think it's a terrible thing to do. Yeah. So, I mean, we all have to kind of take control of our lives and yeah, I think that go where you're treated best is fundamentally human. People do that all the time. It's a very kind of modern Western construct that everybody like defends, that like the government takes almost half your money and gives you like nothing back, and then moralizes you about it, makes you feel badly, and like does all kinds of stuff like you don't agree with, but you're like, but it's still the best system on earth. It's like, everything from the court system to like the legal system, like it's just like everything in the U.S. in particular is broken, and go where you're treated best is human nature. I mean, humans have migrated from the dawn of time. Humans have moved their money from the dawn of time. Humans have found ways to like we don't have to use that bridge. We can go around back behind the mountain to save the tax that they charge you from going across the bridge. I mean, people optimize for self-interest, and somehow that's become like an evil thing to do in the modern Western narrative. And so when we talk about Russia, at least what I can say about a lot of Russian people is they think very organically, like it's human nature is go where you're treated best.
Absolutely. And that's what you're doing. That's what I'm doing. You're going to be speaking at the TDV Summit coming up February 21st in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. It's going to be a live event, but you're not going to be live because you're going to be in Malaysia, probably at I don't know what time, your time there, 1 a.m. or something.
The crack of dawn or something, yes.
Really appreciate that.
Do it. For you, we'll
I appreciate it. Thank you. So that's coming up. Go to tdvsummit.com. I'll also be speaking at your event coming up. I don't know if you've announced it yet or not, but coming up in Cancun, the Nomad Capitalist Live. You want to mention that?
Yeah. So if you go to nomadcapitalist.com/live, you can get on the waiting list. And we're doing something different this year. Not just where it is, but I'll leave it at that. So people should get on the waiting list. We'll let you know when the tickets go on sale. We've been in Malaysia for 3 years, which I said it's the best value city in the world. The hotel was like a great 5-star hotel full of character. But, eventually people are like, we're tired of going to Malaysia. It's too far for us, a lot of people said. So we're making a few changes. And I expect that given that we sold out 2 years ago in Malaysia, like in 14 days, I expect that with these new changes, we'll be selling out. So you'll want to get on the list at nomadcapitalist.com/live. You've been going to our events even before it was called Nomad Capitalist Live. We did one. It's the first thing we ever sold in Las Vegas, God help us, it was called Passport to Freedom. And we were at the Palms. Like Peter Schiff came there, and you and I were at this dinner. And the guy came around, hey, Jeff, it's like the last call for the shuttle back to our hotel. And it's a chapter in my book, Shuttles Are for Slaves. So you've been there from the very, You've been there from the very beginning, but no shuttles, Nomad Capitalist Live, and we'll look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, I used to be a bit different than how I am now. Now I wouldn't quite say that. I mean,
No, it's yeah, that's part of the charm.
it's kind of true, but you know, shuttles aren't just for slaves. I'll say that now. So I've changed over time. It's not just for slaves, but it's a little slavey.
We're gonna put you in a hotel next door, like down the beach, and we're gonna send a shuttle just for you. We're gonna bring like a little on the circuit.
Yeah, please do. Because I've actually been doing this so much self-work, so much meditation and stuff that I'm actually super zen now. I've actually changed like completely from what I used to be. I used to be just drinking all the time and crazy and wild. And so yeah, you can put me on the shuttle now and I'll be like totally fine with it. You know, it's incredible. Speaking of that, have you ever gotten into meditation yourself?
You know, it's funny. I was speaking at an event to these very high level entrepreneurs who are in Medellin. I live in Bogota, but I went over to Medellin, and one of the guys and I we met up afterwards, and he's telling me all the meditation. He's going to the conference. He's got the bands. I have not done that. You know, I'm a very impatient person, but I will say I've done the same thing that you've done, and I've become more calm. And I was on the shuttle last. I was in Hong Kong. I was staying at the Four Seasons, which is like they have like the best bargain ever at the Four Seasons. And so they take you to like the train station because that train is better than any taxi in Hong Kong, as you know. And like somebody forgot something, and I'm like, I'm amazed how calm I've become that like somebody forgot something at the hotel, and like, oh, that's just okay. We'll just go back and get it, and I'll wait here. And it's like, yeah. But I haven't done the meditation, but I think I've become more calm, and I think that comes from just accepting yourself. And I'll tell you, you know, people come to Nomad Capitalist Live. Your event's probably the same, and they're like, this is the one place that I come where everybody understands me because you know I live in Aurora, Colorado. Or I live in, you know, Manchester or whatever, and nobody I talk, they're like, 2 passports, what's your problem? Don't you love our country? And they're like, I love to come to Nomad Capitalist Live and be around people who all agree with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Anarchapulco is going to be. Have you ever been to Anarchapulco?
I haven't done an Anarchapulco, and I'll tell you, I will say this. I love Mexico. I'm a big investor in Mexico. I bought a ton of pesos when, like, after Trump got elected the second time, and it's done great, as a lot of currencies have. But the one thing I'll say, they have some weird thing about me. I always get let in, but they always gonna give me a hard time first. And the places they give you a hard time are, let's just say, less than aesthetic. And so, that you know they've become much stricter on immigration. I mean, we've had people when we had the last Nomad Capitalist Live in Mexico in 2022. We had a guy fly in from the UAE in business class. He was a VIP. It was like $25,000 ticket, and they like refused him entry. I mean, I don't know any other country like that. That's why I actually like Asia. I mean, I went to Singapore I had an African passport. I haven't renewed it, but I had like a Comoros passport. And I went to Singapore with it once, and all the guy he just did. I love this. He's just like, B, C, C, C. All right, 30 days. That says right here in the paper, 30 days. By the way, I give the Germans credit for that. They did the same thing. But you know, God bless Asia. There's no judgment. You could be Sao Tomean, Comorian, Serbian, Georgian. You know, you're Dominican now. You're Dominican right now, right?
Yeah, I have a Dominican passport. Yeah.
You have the DR. So it's like they don't care where you're from or what, you know, and I just like, is it on the list? And so Mexico is not so much of that. And I think that, you know, one of the things that I've been telling people for years is don't rely on your Western passport. Number one, they're going to make your life much more worse. And France wants to bring in global taxes and all that. But like number two, this like, you know, endless, you know, tourist days that, you know, of the original flag theory where countries just let you in, it's over. I met a guy very wealthy guy, entertainment guy. I went to his house, and he's like, I didn't realize that Americans couldn't just come to Europe and spend as much time as they wanted to. Right. And so people still have this idea, like, I could just show up in Mexico and live as long as I want. Like, just get a residence permit. Like, just, you know, like, just show your bank statements for 12 months. They'll give you a residence permit, and then you'll have an easier time getting in. So, you know, for me, people can say, well, oh, somebody got detained for 8 hours and this and that. I mean, most of the time you have zero problems. If you're going to be from a small country, every once in a while, the people in Mexico who are very aligned for Canadians and Americans and, you know, British, you know, every once in a while, they're going to pull you aside for a while. or they're not going to have heard of your country. Or I went with my staff. I had a Georgian person working for me. We went to Paraguay, and the guy was Googling, "Is Georgia a country?" It's like, we already stamped the person in, so apparently someone thought it was. But anyway, I mean, I don't agree with some of the people in our industry. I'll end with this. I'll end the rant with this. There's people, I want to have total optionality, but give up nothing. That's nonsense. Like, you're going to have to make a choice in the coming years. If you want to be truly free and sovereign, it might mean you cannot visit the United States. Are you willing to make that trade? I'm willing to make that trade. Are you willing for once in a while, someone's like, "I haven't heard of your country. Sit over there for an hour." Okay, how do I fix that? In Mexico, I think I need to get a residence permit again. But they don't really understand these tiny countries. So, the point is, get all your residence permits while you can. Don't rely on being a tourist. Just you want to have as many defenses for your optionality as possible. I think I covered a lot of things there.
You did. I think we should leave it there too. We've been talking for a while. It's been great to talk to you again, Andrew. I hope at some point you can make it to Anarchapulco. I think you'd like it quite a bit. It's actually changed dramatically over the years. It's become this completely different event now of everyone's working on themselves and stuff. And that's actually why I brought up the meditation stuff. I would actually suggest to you, because of a few of the things you said there, like how you've had this programming put into you about everything's your fault and all that. That's stuff you can actually resolve with meditation. So a little tip for you, every morning for 10 minutes, just go sit and watch your mind. And that's really what meditation is. And so you just take a breath and just watch your mind and just say to yourself, let's see how long I can go before a thought comes in. And for most people, it's 2 seconds. And you might even get caught in that thought for a minute or two. It's I have to do this tomorrow or whatever. But as soon as you realize you're in the thought, just take another breath and go, okay, I got caught in a thought. Let's see how long I can go. And you just do that over and over and over, and you start to see what your mind does and where these programs are, and you can start removing them, and they're so awesome. So I just wanted to mention that.
I think everybody who's in my events, I've seen the difference as well. I think it's it's the old school, your vibe attracts your tribe. I think as we become hopefully more enlightened, you get more enlightened people and hopefully less angry people. I've certainly become a lot less angry since when I started this many years ago. And it was just kind of I want to complain about the U.S. government. It's okay. What the solution to complain about the U.S. government is? It's just leaving and taking back your agency and not having to worry about it. And so I listen to all these Americans why are you angry about it? Because I've escaped that system. I don't have to be angry anymore. It's actually much more freeing. But yeah, I think it's a good thing for anyone who's kind of interested in our stuff. There's probably some work that you need to do on yourself. If we were born the happiest people in the world, we would be having some Italian Sunday dinner at grandma's house with 25 other family members. We all probably have something that motivated us, just like any entrepreneur. Every entrepreneur is trying to get revenge at somebody who wronged them, the people bullied me, I want to start a business. I think it's important if you're interested in this stuff, and there's probably some things you want to evaluate to be a more enlightened person. And I hope I'm doing that, and I'm glad you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, again, why I recommend in the future, if you get the chance, I'd love to see you come to Anarchapulco. Probably be doing it again next year in Puerto Vallarta. We'll see how the world goes. Is there anything you wanted to mention at the end here? I'd let people know your website or anything else.
Yeah. Well, nomadcapitalist.com. One of the things I'm trying to do this year is I said, people come up to me. Do you have people come up to you? When you're in Mexico, people walk up to you and say, hey, Jeff, I watch you. You must have that a lot.
I don't actually leave my house hardly ever, but when I do, yeah, it happens every now and then.
I get a little stir crazy. I have to go out. I'm a man of the people, as you know. I have to go out with the people. But people come up to me and they, I love what you do. And I said, I don't want, why do I have a company where someone can just come and say, I want a bank account and a St. Lucia passport? It's listen, the big thing for me this year is maximizing optionality. We talk about the blocks. People should have as many options as possible. That's the thing that I'm really trying to be the best at helping our clientele do in 2026 is we have, I guess, some people getting Cambodian citizenships and other high level citizenships. And it's yeah, you should be getting a couple of those. And so, if you want us to help you with that, you go to nomadcapitalist.com. But most importantly, I'm looking forward to seeing you at Nomad Capitalist Live. And yeah, it's going to be crazy to see you back there after all these years, and hopefully it's grown a lot.
Absolutely, and you'll be at.
By the way, I'm going to come back. I'm working on a book. I'm working on book number 2, talking about what it's like, kind of life after the United States. So that's also on the docket.
Very cool. And you'll be speaking at the TDV Summit coming up February 21st. You can check it out, tdvsummit.com. You can watch it virtually. Yeah, and we'll leave it there. Thank you, Andrew.
All right, Jeff.
Freedom in the breeze, ocean's hymn, no chains, no pleas, no rulers, no kings, no scripts to recite. Burn the old book, let the phoenix ignite. Rebirth on the sand, where the rebels convene. A Genesis scene, mind sharp and keen. Dollars to dust, trust in the soul. Anarchapulco, where we break the mold. Anarchapulco, where the spirit flies. New dawn, breaking under open skies. No masters, no limits, no chains to choke. This is freedom's fire, Anarchapulco spoke. Anarchapulco, where the spirit flies. New dawn, breaking under open skies. No masters, no limits, no chains to choke. This is freedom's fire, Anarchapulco spoke. Beach bonfires start spark like flint. Ideas ricochet, no permission, no stint. Borders dissolve, minds expand. Every soul sovereign, every mind grand. No contract signed, just a handshake truth. Ancient wisdom reborn in the fountain of youth. Rules crumble like castles at high tide. Revolution lives where the dreamers reside. Golden horizon, the birth of the free. Echoes of laughter, the waves decree. Freedom is anthem, a beat in the chest. Anarchapulco, where the restless rest. Anarchapulco, where the spirit flies. New dawn, breaking under open skies. No masters, no limits, no chains to choke. This is freedom's fire, Anarchapulco spoke. Anarchapulco, where the spirit flies. New dawn, breaking under open skies. No masters, no limits, no chains to choke. This is freedom's fire, Anarchapulco spoke.
With performing artist Ayame.
I don't need a muse or anything to do. Probably just get canceled 'cause I'm saying about the truth. Feels like we're getting wiser, don't you? Since the lies that they blew up, now nobody trusts the news.
Anarchapulco opening party on February 15th. Anarchapulco Genesis, February 16th to 20th. The Dollar Vigilante TDV Summit, February 21st. The Crypto Vigilante TCV Summit, February 22nd. Agorapulco, retreats, and other excursions, February 21st to 27th. Bufo and other plant medicines with Bear Heart throughout the event. A special Iboga ceremony with Christoph Melchizedek from February 23rd. 2 Tesla plasma healing devices will be running throughout the event. Thanks to the Tesla Club. Bring the whole family. The Anarchapulco Family Camp runs throughout the event with activities for non-lethally injected, free-range, unschooled pure souls. Anarchapulco 2026. Genesis. Puerto Vallarta,